What is more terrifying? Living with someone who is slowly losing their mind, or finding out that all their hallucinations were actually real? Today, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy whose girlfriend disappeared, leaving behind nothing but a chilling diary. In it, she described creatures that steal bodies and pretend to be human. Watch until the end to find out the terrible price he had to pay for the truth. And if you love horror stories, hit that subscribe button right now. I have plenty more for you. Let's get started.
It's been several weeks since my girlfriend disappeared. There's been no news from the police, and I get the feeling they aren't interested in looking for Lena at all. During my very first visit, they told me she was an adult, that she'd take a walk and come back. Stupidly, I mentioned that we often argued, and I immediately saw the officer's expression change. I bit my tongue, but it was already too late. Lena has no parents, so lately I was her only family. When we moved in together, I had no idea what a heavy burden it would become for both of us. The thing is, my girlfriend suffers from a whole bouquet of psychological problems. Her mother died during childbirth, and her father was never in the picture. I think that's why she developed gravitophobia, an obsessive fear of pregnant women, and a fear of becoming pregnant herself. She often repeated that she felt guilty for her mother's death, despite all the logical arguments I tried to give her. "I understand everything, Senya," she used to say, "but I still feel what I feel." Despite the deep wound inside her, Lena was always very fun to be around. After a year of friendship, we started dating, and a couple of months later, I suggested we rent an apartment together. That's when she slowly started to suffocate me. I work nights as a sound engineer in a bar. I've spent my whole life chasing adrenaline and social interaction. I simply can't live any other way. At first, I liked taking care of her, cooking breakfast, watching TV shows together in the evenings, but soon I started missing the time when I came home just to sleep. Lena noticed that and became very nervous. You could see she was trying to restrain herself, but irritation was bursting inside her. Soon, even the idea of coming up and hugging her was out of the question. She would make it very clear how offended she was. I started avoiding conversations to keep from provoking conflicts, but that only made her angrier. "Am I nothing to you? Tell me," she would suddenly snap. "Am I not even worth a greeting?" Once she came up and demonstratively knocked over a chair next to me. You should have seen the stunned look on my face. After that, I started coming home even less frequently. A few months later, Lena fell into depression. She quit her job and spent days lying down and crying. She couldn't wash her hair or clean the trash in the kitchen. She even went to a psychiatrist and started taking antidepressants, which helped a little. But the psychosis overpowered even tranquilizers, let alone antidepressants. So I ended up paying all the rent and utilities for an apartment I barely slept in, regularly receiving unpleasant messages full of accusations. I had no idea how to get out of this situation. I still loved her and understood she wasn't herself, but how could I help her? The night before she disappeared, I came home from work around 4 a.m. The bar closes at 3. Lena was lying on the couch in a messy bed, facing the wall. "Len?" She didn't answer. "Len, let's talk," I quietly suggested, touching her shoulder. "How do you even tolerate me?" She sniffled. "I'm such a pathetic mess that I disgust myself." "It's fine." She turned around and looked at me angrily. "Fine? Seriously? You act like I don't exist. When was the last time you talked to me? Why did you suddenly decide to now?" "Len, calm down. Let's talk normally. Please." "About what? What do you want from me?" "I really want to understand you," I asked softly. "I want you to love me. I want your attention, like at the beginning." "Len, that's how relationships work. First there's the honeymoon phase, then people adjust and live their lives. That doesn't mean I stopped loving you. You just maybe didn't notice before what I'm really like." And what is that? Always gone. God knows where. Cold, distant. Talking to her was painful and exhausting. After a pause, I continued. "Please understand, you're not my whole life. You're very dear to me, but that doesn't cancel out other interests, responsibilities, or simply the need to be alone sometimes. I'd spend more time with you if every conversation didn't turn into this." Lena burst into bitter tears. I stroked her shoulder. "Why are you crying again?" "I understand all that, Senya, but my world collapses when you're not around or when you ignore me." I didn't know what to say. After a moment, I just lay down and hugged her, like in the old days. "No one will ever love me like this," she sobbed. "Even you can't stand me. I'm unbearable." "Don't say nonsense, sweetheart," I said, pulling her closer. "I love you very much." She curled up in a fetal position, pressed against my chest, and wrapped her arms around me. Tears were still running down her flushed cheeks. That's how we fell asleep. In the morning, she was gone. Not next to me, not in the apartment. There was no one to help, so I started my own search the day after going to the police. Lena's things were all in place, as if she had never left. We didn't share passwords to social media or laptops. The only clue was a notebook, her personal diary from times when she felt especially bad. The thoughts repeated over and over. I destroy everything. He doesn't love me anymore. I ruined everything. She also wrote that she felt like a monster because of her mother's story, and that she kept hurting everyone close to her, unable to stop herself. She repented for her behavior. I was starting to think I wouldn't find anything useful, until I noticed a name. After Ira got pregnant, I went to visit her, helped around the house. Maybe I could find this Ira and ask whether she had seen Lena. Maybe Lena had decided to stay with her for a while to take a break from our fights. Though why she wouldn't warn me, that was very much in her style. Revenge? Ira never sat still. Never. And she walked strangely, as if her body were breaking apart. I think she isn't human. She smells strongly of decay. Oh shit. Everything was worse than I thought. If Lena's disorder had turned into paranoia and hallucinations, that would make the search much harder. In that case, it was impossible to predict where she might have gone. I kept reading, and the delusions grew stronger. According to Lena, there were substitute non-humans pretending to be pregnant women. Under the mask, they hid horrible creatures that took over human bodies and called themselves mothers. She noted one odd detail. They used the word mothers in a strange way, as a proper noun. There were no surnames or friends listed. I messaged all of Lena's friends on VK, but no one had heard from her for a long time. Eventually, I found that specific Ira. I briefly explained the situation, and she kindly invited me over in a few days after returning from vacation. I asked her directly if she knew where Lena might be. Her answer was vague. "Come over, we'll talk and figure something out together." Waiting was hard, but I had no other leads. I buried myself in work and started drinking more just to distract myself from the anxiety. I tried rereading Lena's diary, but only made myself feel worse. According to her, I was a traitor, obligated to love her, but refusing out of malice. She never said that to me directly. Maybe she herself realized how absurd it sounded. I didn't hold a grudge. People think all kinds of things when they're in a bad state. I decided to go out for some air. I was out of groceries. In the elevator with me was a woman holding a baby wrapped in a thick wool blanket. The baby's hair was soaked with sweat. I felt sorry for him. I myself hate the heat and walk around with my jacket open in winter. Because of the moisture, the smell of talc and baby formula intensified. Something about it felt atypical. It was too sickly sweet. Then I realized what it reminded me of. Beneath the familiar baby smells was the stench of rotten meat. Maybe something spoiled in her bag, I thought. Then I looked her over and noticed she didn't have a bag. I rarely paid attention to strangers, but the smell forced me to look closer. I couldn't shake the thought of where that stench was coming from. For a moment, I thought it was the elevator itself, but after taking a deep breath, I realized it was coming from the passenger. Among the usual elevator hum came a smacking sound. I looked at the baby. He was blindly sucking on the fabric of her shirt, pressed against her chest. "Hang on, baby, we'll get home and I'll feed you," the mommy said. "What floor are you on?" I asked. "We live in a different building." "Ah, I see." We rode down in silence. The woman stepped out first and she walked strangely. Her pelvic bones rolled beneath her jeans and a brown substance, like clotted blood, dripped into the gap between the elevator shaft and the entrance. My curiosity spiked. I caught up with the woman to see where the liquid was dripping from. It was seeping through her shirt under the baby's mouth. It dripped onto the blanket, and from there, rare drops fell to the ground. I stood there frozen until the door slammed shut with a long beep, and for another minute I asked myself, what the hell was that? But gradually my mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was sick. Anything happens. Finally, I exhaled. Damn, I'd read too many diaries. Soon I'd be the one needing help. The day of my meeting with Ira came. I messaged her to confirm and she said yes. She mentioned they had a routine with the baby and woke up early so I could come as early as 9. That worked for me. After work, I slept 4 hours and started getting ready at 8. For the first time in a long while, I felt rested. Even quiet Lena, slowly rotting in bed, was always a ticking time bomb. I'd watch her sleep peacefully, then lie down next to her, hear quiet sobs and feel like a scumbag. Try to hug her. She throws my hand off. Sleeping next to her felt like lying at the foot of a volcano. I could almost feel the heat of her anger on my skin. I remembered eating sandwiches in the kitchen, sitting on pins and needles, thinking she'd get tired of pretending to sleep and come out to dump her grievances on me. My body would tense up involuntarily. Nobody was really to blame. Neither of us was bad. Ira greeted me warmly, made tea, set out cookies, and fussed around the house while we talked. Such a pleasant friend. Why had Lena stopped talking to her? When did you last see her? I asked. A while ago, about a month. She didn't write or call you? No. And you didn't try contacting her? When would I, Senya? You see, I'm swamped here. Can't sit down for a second. I see. I took a sip of tea. When we messaged, you said we'd figure something out. Do you have any ideas where she might be? Ira suddenly froze in front of the sink, rag in hand, staring blindly at me. Her look made me uneasy. What? I asked, confused. Ira was silent. Then she closed her eyes, her nostrils flaring as if sniffing something. Ira, what's wrong? Do you smell gas? No, she drawled distractedly, pausing again. Don't worry about Lena. She'll show up. How do you know? You'll understand soon. I thought you'd give me something concrete. Wait, I need to step away. Ira rushed into the room. As she disappeared into the dim hallway, I noticed unnatural hollows in her buttocks. As she walked, they looked even deeper, as if part of the muscle had simply vanished, exposing the pits of her hip bones. Phew, finally asleep. Ira exhaled, returning. I'm going to walk around without a shirt. Do you mind? It's very hot. I nodded. She was wearing a sports bra and shorts, so there was nothing embarrassing about it. However, she didn't stay long and started running back and forth around the apartment. First, she took a rag from the kitchen to the bathroom, then to the bedroom, then back to the bathroom. Finding herself in the kitchen, she froze in the corner, as if she couldn't remember why she came. Can I help you with something? No. Ira drawled thoughtfully, then listened, and ran back into the depths of the apartment. Hold on, I'll be right back. Ira kept rushing off, clearly convinced the baby needed something. But I couldn't understand how she knew, since the child in the room hadn't made a sound. I watched her go and saw something hard rolling under her shorts, much like the woman in the elevator. When she returned, I asked her, "Sit down, let's drink tea calmly." In a minute. "Ira, just sit down already, please." "I can't, the baby." "He's sleeping, you said. He's not crying, not screaming. Do you hear him?" "I don't have time." She suddenly cut me off irritably and went back into the room. This time her walk was completely jagged, as if her body were breaking apart. I couldn't ignore it or rationalize it anymore. The hair on my back stood up. I whispered, "What the hell is going on here?" But the answer was dead silence. I sat like that for a while, afraid to call out to the hostess, but nothing changed. When my ears started ringing from the silence, I got up from the chair and walked as quietly as possible down the hallway. A wide open doorway led to the living room. I immediately looked away. Ira was breastfeeding. Damn, that was awkward. Wait. I turned back. Yes, it wasn't milk. Ira was squeezing her breast, forcing pus directly into the mouth of the child, wrapped in the blanket. My jaw dropped. A faint moan of horror and disgust escaped me. Then Ira, or whatever was pretending to be her, turned her face toward me. "Come in, Senya. Mother will feed you." The voice was quiet and raspy, as if she hadn't spoken in a long time. It held a paradoxical, terrifying mix of soft care and complete detachment. I backed away. Ira tried to stand up, but her legs simply fell out of her hip sockets, preventing her from rising. Nevertheless, she kept trying, pushing against the sofa with her hands, not understanding why it wasn't working. The bundle fell from her knees to the floor, and when the blanket opened, I saw a stiff blue corpse. The blood drained from my face, and I leaned against the wall to keep from falling. The thing called out with lifeless affection. Suppressing nausea and overcoming the weakness in my limbs, I ran to the exit. I struggled with the locks with trembling hands, then stumbled down the stairs. When I caught my breath outside, a thought hit me. That's why she never sat down. I couldn't get a grip on myself. What had actually happened in that apartment? Had I gone insane? Or was Ira really nursing a dead child, and the rest was shock-induced hallucination? There was no one at the entrance. On a weekday morning, people were either at work or asleep, so I couldn't ask the grandmas on the bench about the neighbor. I sat on the bench until the color returned to my face and my stomach settled, then went home. I was in such shock that thoughts of Lena flew out of my head, and the day passed in a blur. That evening, I went to work and immediately started drinking. Luckily, the management didn't forbid it, and being a little tipsy actually sharpened my hearing, which helped my work. I slowly started to calm down. Returning home completely wasted in the morning, I lay in the empty bed and mechanically tried to hug the one who was no longer there. My hand reached out for an invisible shoulder and fell onto my own stomach. Then the room started spinning, carrying me off to dreamland. I woke up with a heavy head. As I stumbled to the bathroom, I felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. I looked in the mirror and froze. My belly was swollen and firm, covered in dark purple stretch marks, as if I had gained weight overnight. Must have really overdone it with the food and booze, I thought with annoyance. Suddenly, something moved inside me, causing discomfort. Time to use the bathroom, I thought. Then came a sharp jolt that bent me double. Unbearable pain came in waves, and I greedily gasped for air. Something was trying to break out. A scratch appeared on my stomach, but it was inflicted from the inside. I howled and collapsed on the floor, writhing in agony, trying to crawl to the room to call an ambulance. I couldn't cross the threshold. Something inside wouldn't let go. Exhausted, I rolled onto my back. Suddenly, Lena's doomed words flashed in my mind. I am unbearable. A horrifying realization hit me with panic. No, I pleaded. This can't be true. This can't be happening. My belly exploded with hellish pain. Blood seeped through the stretch marks. Sharp fingers poked through the skin from below. It was tearing its way out. This is agony. This is the end, I thought, covered in cold sweat. Long arms emerged from the bloody breach. The monster physically couldn't fit inside, yet somehow it had. Then came the head. Ugly, shriveled, slimy, covered in blood and my guts. My belly pulsed, and I felt my life draining away with the blood. Cold, slippery limbs, reminiscent of octopus tentacles, crawled over my body, causing a gag reflex. I hated them for the pain they caused, but my rage was powerless. My body no longer belonged to me. "Congratulations!" croaked a distorted voice that sounded like Lena. "You are a mother now." Nausea was forced from my throat by an unfamiliar sweetness. I didn't know which was worse. It fears killing the one who gives warmth, I suddenly realized. But it must kill. That is its nature. Choking on blood, I began to cry. I stroked the creature's head and whispered my last words. "You aren't unbearable, my darling. See? I have borne you." Boundless love for this beautiful creature flooded my dying body. When I woke up again, the pain was gone. The new Lena lay on my chest. I smiled. She was finally with me. My ripped open belly was covered with a blanket, and the black clotted blood didn't bother me at all. While my little Lena sleeps, I decided to sit at her desk and write the story. I hope my dead body can rise again to take care of my sweet girl. And special fiery hellos go to Dobrov Meyer, Solka M, and Kiryu Hakol. All the best to you. Stay healthy and happy. Thank you so much for your support.